his reputation, his ethics, his good standing. But this report would seem, the snippets we've heard of it would seem to paint the former FBI director in a different light.
Well, John, well, I've not seen the report. I'm looking anxiously forward to reviewing it. It's about 500 pages, so it'll be, I'm sure, in copious detail. Michael Horowitz did a great job in his shorter report on Andrew McCabe, pointing out how he lied to the FBI investigators 3 times under oath and once not under oath. But, John, I've been saying for a long time that the investigation concerning Hillary Clinton's email scandal was not a robust investigation. It was never designed to uncover the truth and lead to a prosecution. It was more designed to cover up the truth and exonerate, and that's exactly what James Comey did. So I'm not going to be surprised by just about anything the Inspector General reports on that. I'm really looking forward to seeing the report.
So the firing of James Comey, which caused such an outburst early in this administration, you would seem to support the president's decision.
Well, Rod Rosenstein laid out the case of how James Comey violated all kinds of Department of Justice guidelines in terms of how the FBI should really act when it comes to investigation. So, you know, if anybody wants to get prepared for the Inspector General report, go onto our webpage. You can take a look at our interim report on the Clinton email scandal and the FBI's investigation of it. We prepared that and issued it in February 2018. It really lays out the basic guideline, the basic timeline of all these events. It's not quite up to date. We'll be making it up to date once we see the Inspector General's report, and we finally start getting more of the evidence from the FBI and Department of Justice, which is still very slow in coming.
The White House, obviously no fans of James Comey. Hogan Gidley, one of the president's spokesmen, had this to say this morning on Fox and Friends. Listen.
James Comey is disgraced. He's a liar and a leaker. He's disgruntled. Everyone knows who James Comey is at this point. The book tour he went on was disgraceful. People understand at this point what he is and who he is and what he's all about.
Is this changing the official Washington image of the former FBI director, Senator? Well,
I kind of agree that the book tour was not a real bright moment for James Comey, not by a long shot. And, you know, let's face it, Andrew McCabe was Martyr McCabe until the Inspector General's report really showed that he pretty conclusively lied to the FBI investigator. And let's face it, who should know better that they shouldn't lie to the FBI investigators than the deputy director and then finally the acting director of the FBI? So listen, I came under a great deal of criticism when I just talked about possible corruption at the highest levels of the FBI. I think the McCabe report definitely proved there was definite corruption at the highest levels. We'll see how extensive it is. My whole point of my investigation, we've been doing this for 3 years now, is to make the public aware, full disclosure, so that the FBI and the Department of Justice can regain their integrity, the credibility which it needs to serve the American public.
The Clinton campaign at the time was using all kinds of euphemisms, security review, matters, things like that for what was going on. We were getting to a place where the Attorney General and I were both going to have to testify and talk publicly about it. And I wanted to know, was she going to authorize us to confirm we had an investigation? And she said, yes, but don't call it that, call it a matter. And I said, why would I do that? And she said, just call it a matter.
Well, the Senate Judiciary Committee officially launching its investigation into former Obama Attorney General Loretta Lynch, demanding information about whether Lynch interfered in the FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server for classified information, and whether Loretta Lynch tipped off the Clinton campaign about the FBI's probe into Clinton's emails, and whether that probe would not go too far. Let's bring in American Center for Law and Justice. Jordan Seculo is here. Okay, here's what's going on, Jordan. We got Chuck Grassley, Lindsey Graham, Dianne Feinstein wanting answers. How far does this go?
I think this is just the beginning, Liz. So initially we'll see June 6th is the deadline for former Attorney General Lynch to reply to these questions. We'll see if she does reply. Does she comply to her attorneys? I'm sure she's lawyered up at this point. And could it lead to testimony under oath? Could it lead to more statements? And then obviously all of this, you look at this big picture of finally the people who used to be in charge of the investigations are being investigated. And this today is the confirmation of that, that we're not just kind of moving on, that we are looking back. And it was Jim Comey who, look, Liz, I'll be honest, he's a bit of a weasel in that testimony because none of this came out at the time, right? He didn't go up any kind of chain of command about the non-recusal of Loretta Lynch. He didn't mention this matter to anybody until after he's fired. Same thing we did with the president. So I think you have to take all of that with a grain of salt and go to the people themselves.
I want to get to this. They're contacting Clinton campaign officials, too. You know, the New York Times reported back in April that the FBI got hacked documents, including one written by a Democrat official who, quote, expressed confidence that Loretta Lynch would keep the Clinton investigation from going too far. That's to your point, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be, again, a serious allegation that the FBI came across that, and the fact that they would just, sit on it and it was leaked out. So that's why I think if you want the truth on it, and this could exonerate former Attorney General Lynch, and it could, again, put her in some serious hot water.
Right.
She will now be in charge of kind of answering these questions. But what I'm thankful about, Liz, is that we're finally asking these questions. You know, there's a lot of these investigations that kind of got the stops put on them by the Department of Justice under Loretta Lynch, under the Obama administration.
Let's go through it. No special counsel for the IRS targeting of conservative nonprofits. No special counsel for the Clinton email server. So here's the question. Is there a better case of obstruction against Loretta Lynch than against President Trump? That's what some are arguing.
I think it's a lot clearer. If you were trying to change the wording of the FBI director intentionally, and I mean, that's what he said under oath, from from investigation to matter, and then you have no explanation for it. And you add to that if there was any communication, Liz, any at all, that confirms that she was telling everybody, don't worry, because she did get on the airplane with Bill Clinton. Let's not forget that. That is undisputed. Right before Hillary Clinton was exonerated from this the first time, she got on a plane on the tarmac in Phoenix with the former president, who appointed her to be the U.S. attorney. So I think there is a lot more there in this situation, and I'm glad that we're finally got a Senate bipartisan to actually look into it.
All right, Jordan Secular, thank you so much. Come back soon. We love having you on the show.
The senators are investigating whether Lynch tried to block the FBI case. The chairman and ranking member writing in this letter they want relevant documents and answers from Lynch about media reports that she would not allow the FBI case into Clinton's mishandling of classified information go too far, and whether those reported assurances were shared with then DNC chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz. During his congressional testimony June 8th, the fired FBI Director James Comey said he went public about the Clinton email case last summer because he lost confidence in Lynch, and in cryptic testimony appeared to reference a vital record.
There were other things that contributed to that. One significant item I know the committee's been briefed on. There's been some public accounts of it which are nonsense, but I understand the committee's been briefed on the classified facts.
Based on our reporting, in July of 2016, Lynch declined to answer questions about the Clinton email case more than 70 times when she went to Congress. Tucker?
Catherine Herridge, thanks a lot for that. John Daniel Davidson is a senior correspondent over at The Federalist, and he joins us now. John, thanks a lot for coming on tonight. So it seems like there is evidence, and we should just stress again, the letter that Catherine was referring to comes from a bipartisan assortment of lawmakers. They seem to have reached a conclusion that Loretta Lynch may have attempted to squelch, or there's evidence she attempted to squelch the investigation into Hillary. Do you think that's a fair conclusion?
Well, yeah, and the main reason I think it's a fair conclusion is because of what James Comey himself said before the Senate Intelligence Committee earlier this month. You know, one of the most remarkable things about his testimony was the part where he talked about how Loretta Lynch told him not to refer to the Clinton email investigation as an investigation, and instead told him to call it a matter. And even more remarkable, he challenged her and said, why would I do that? And she said, you know, just do it. And then he did it. You know, he complied with her and called it a matter when clearly it was a criminal investigation. So between that and Loretta Lynch meeting with Bill Clinton on the tarmac in Phoenix, you know, this is sort of just adding one more thing to a laundry list of signs that Loretta Lynch was trying to squelch the investigation.
Well, here's another. Okay, so the FBI, this comes from that bipartisan letter for Republicans and Democrats. So it's Dianne Feinstein and Chuck Grassley, Lindsey Graham, Sheldon Whitehouse. And it says that the FBI reported to have obtained an email or memo, and I'm quoting now, written by a Democratic operative who expressed confidence that Attorney General Lynch would keep the Clinton investigation from going too far. Now, that's not proof, but it's certainly emitting a strong odor. When is the former Attorney General going to be testifying before the Congress so we can get answers to whether or not this happened?
Well, I think that's exactly what we need. You know, the funny thing about these investigations is you don't know which direction they're going to go once they start. And in this case, I think, you know, there are real questions about, you know, what did Loretta Lynch do? What were the conversations that were held behind closed doors? You know, and we also have, you know, reports or testimony from Jay Johnson, the former director of Department of Homeland Security, saying the Obama administration didn't want to say anything about the Russia probe because they didn't want to seem like they were politicizing the facts. Well, look, the Obama administration politicized everything. I mean, Obama was literally campaigning for Hillary while all this was going on. The only reason they didn't want to talk about this stuff is because they thought it would hurt Hillary or help Trump. So the whole thing has been politicized from the beginning.
It doesn't really make sense, and this is one of the many ways the press has fallen down, I think, on the job recently. So every newspaper and TV channel in America is hyping the idea that Russia hacked our election. And yet the majority of state election officials have testified recently that they heard nothing from the Obama administration about this so-called Russia threat. I haven't read anything about that in the New York Times. That seems like a big story. If this was going on, if our democracy was being subverted by the Russians, why wouldn't the Obama people tell state election officials about it before a presidential election? It doesn't make any sense.
And the funny thing is, there were people in the media that were writing about this last year, as early as April, who saw, you know, signs of Russian troll propaganda operations on social media, who saw signs of, Russia influence operations throughout the election cycle, starting in the spring, going all the way through the summer into the fall. And yet, you know, nothing from the Obama administration, didn't want to acknowledge it, didn't want to politicize the facts that were already out there in some degree. We knew that Russia was trying to influence the election and may have even tried to hack into the election. But again, the motivation here for the Obama administration is what has always been the motivation for the Obama administration, and that is domestic politics. They thought it would hurt Hillary and help Trump if they actually gave credence to what Trump had been saying on the campaign trail, which is, hey, this is rigged. This is a rigged system. Now, obviously, Trump overstates a lot, but he was right about the DNC favoring Hillary Clinton, and, you know, we all saw what the email said. So I think this is a really clear case of the White House and the Attorney General's office politicizing this entire issue.
The net effect is you just wind up believing nobody in any context, and that's the casualty in the end. John, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.